This is the Big O and Duke Show. Let's go! Oscar Santana, with an appetite for the finer things in life. Oscar can usually be found with an entourage in the bottle service section of the hottest clubs of D.C. Waving his Benjamins around like he owns the place. Chad Dukes. He is everything red, white, and blue. A man who calls him like he sees him and has no problem putting anyone in their place. Whether it's an assault rifle or a fast food bag full of fried snacks, Chad Dukes has his red-blooded American fingers wrapped around it. And now, here are your hosts, Big O and Dukes.
Now, let me tell you what you're in charge of, Drab. Nothing. Dick.
Big O and Duke Show. Thank you for joining us. Special Sirius Satellite Radio Edition live from New York City.
No, this is the same type of show we do from the abandoned warehouse in Manassas, Virginia.
You mean the Tech Corridor?
Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here.
It is.
I want to remind people a couple ways to engage with the program. We've got the show number, which is 866-969-1969. Or get at us on Twitter at Big O and Dukes.
Am I allowed to say wow, one wow, Iraq? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can. It's just easier saying the number.
All right.
Again, the number is 866.
Come on. It's not easier, but it's
969-1969.
Yeah, call us. We'll take some of your phone calls.
I'm Oscar Santana.
I'm Chad Dukes. If you're not familiar with our radio show, why would you be? I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I have been yanking it to the Opie and Anthony show, Opie and Jim Norton show for over a decade
Absolutely.
now. We're gigantic radio files, first and foremost, and we've chewed a lot of the same dirt. We were on the same channel as in the O&A show in Washington, D.C. on WJFK. We did some radio in Baltimore. We did some radio in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona.
Absolutely.
Or I think you and I would chop off a pinky if we could go back there.
Do it today.
And we're giant talk radio fans that somehow wormed our way into the industry, which I guess probably is any talk radio fan's lifelong goal.
Yeah, respectively, this show's been together for a little over 10 years on terrestrial and online.
God.
And
that's so depressing.
I
mean, when you say that, I want to wrap a belt around my neck. It just is so sad that we've been working that long. And, the best thing that's ever happened to us is a weekend gig. This gig right here. Best thing that's ever happened to us.
That's possible. It's absolutely possible. But we should know a couple of facts. That this show, if you're a talk radio fan, it's been forged through the fires of talk radio.
Yeah, we rip off a lot of really good shows. Like there's if you like good talk radio, we've ripped them off. So you're going to like this show.
You're going to love the show. Also, you should know that as you go through the journey, you'll hear all the topics we hit, and they go from sports entertainment to just general pop culture.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong there, and we ask you to join us, and hopefully at the end of this 2 hours, you'll have 3 new friends.
And I'll reinforce the fact that if you've heard it on another show, you'll hear it here. But I'm Chad. That's Oscar.
Hey now.
This is our producer, Drab T-shirt. Drab, how are you?
Very good. Thanks for dragging me along.
You excited to be here?
I am. I know you didn't think so at first.
No, you weren't. I'll tell you what. Here's what happened. Is that
Story of our lives.
Drab showed up at the, first of all, he showed up 1 minute before our train from Washington, D.C. left. Because for those of you that don't know, we took the Acela up from Washington, D.C. today to do this show. And Oscar and I were at Einstein Bagel in beautiful Penn Station.
Got there an hour early. Like professionals do, Chad.
Let's talk about, hey, let's do this on the show. Let's do that. Where's our producer? We haven't seen him yet. Shows up 1 minute before the gates open with the biggest cartoon-sized bag of McDonald's I've ever seen in my life.
The only thing that went right within that back and forth of us trying to find out if he was at the train station or he was going to be joining us on the train was when he showed up with that bag of McDonald's.
Yeah, not one McNugget for your pal Chad Dukes. Not one French fry for Oscar Santana.
Nothing at all.
I figured you would have eaten, Chad.
What is that, a fat joke? All right, let's get this out. Let's get this out of the way. I'm overweight. For people that don't know, I'm a man that has a long waistband. My password for my ATM card is Bosco. So that's how much I like to eat.
You hold it well.
But this son of a bitch shows up with a giant bag of McDonald's and then proceeds to eat it standing up, waiting in line for a train, which I've never seen before in my life.
We have a ton of thank yous, Brad, to get to.
Well, can we wait till the end, please,
yeah, but
to do that?
more importantly, some ground rules for those people calling in right now.
All right.
That you animals having listening parties in the D.C. area or in Phoenix, God bless you. But we got to get into the show before we get to you.
Sure. I mean, if they want to call in and just JSO,
they're
that's
already calling in for that.
That's great. We love that. And we'll take some of those calls, but we need to do a show before we just start yanking it over our heads.
Just look at the lines already.
Yeah, they're just filled with people that we know. Like our friends that listen to the podcast.
And they want to talk about our friends.
Yeah, and they don't want to talk about like people that most of the people listening to the station right now have no idea who they are.
I'll tell you this, just off the calls right now, Virginia, Boston, Atlanta, Baltimore, Virginia. That's a good start.
Well, if you haven't heard of us, just so you know, we're kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
But getting back to just quickly before we move on from Drab, I knew that this show was doomed. Like, I was excited. We got up here. We saw our friend Eric Nagel, a wonderful man, and he just did his show and did a great job. And we're getting excited, having a few drinks before the show, loosening up.
Some beverages.
We get into the studio here, and I'm like, oh, man, that's where Jim Norton sits. Oh, my God, that's where Greg Opie sits.
Yeah.
And we're getting excited, and I look at the door to the air studio, which is behind us, and I see a rube yanking on it. Yanking on the door, just pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. And I say, Oscar, who's that at the door? And he says, I think that's Drab.
Yeah.
And for the next 60 seconds, I'd say, 70 seconds.
Easily.
We watched our executive producer not be able to operate the door to the air studio.
And we stood there and we said, this is the man. This is the man that's going to be running the console.
He's going to be at the bridge of the Enterprise for us for the next 2 hours.
And then when he gets in, he's indignant about the fact that
anybody could have made that mistake.
Why is this door open this way? Well, they swing both ways.
It's the biggest door I've ever seen. It weighs 200 pounds.
For those of you that don't know, Drab T-shirt is also the executive producer of a morning radio show in Washington, D.C., and he didn't know how to get into the air studio.
This is what I don't miss about doing a live radio show with you guys, is that I'm the only target in the studio for you guys to pound on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Oh, now you're the target?
There's a target right on the small of his back. Hard target like Chance Boudreau. Of course, my favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. We have a lot. We have a lot to do. By the way, one of our favorite guests, probably in the history of the show, is coming back on the show with us tonight.
If you're into technology at all and you're a tech head, you've heard this name, Dan Ackerman. He has a storied history with the Big O Dukes program.
You're in love with him.
But more, please. If we lived in the same city, we'd spend a lot of time together.
You'd be making a lot of offers.
Yeah, making offers to make a life.
A little indecent proposals.
He works for CNET.com. He is not just one of their correspondents, but he also does those reviews that everybody goes to see if they're going to buy this TV set, this computer. Yeah. And we've known Dan for a little over 8 years, and he's always been in every facet of our program, but only calling in because he's based here in New York.
Yeah, and I think he's coming in the studio.
He's coming in studio tonight. So if you have any tech questions, if you want to get really a breakdown of the new iPhones, the iWatch, we can talk about that with him.
Just briefly, the watch. Can I
or the Apple Watch, as they call it.
Whatever it's called. The old watch. The one that, who put that out?
Samsung Galaxy Gear.
Do you guys know anyone that owns one? The Samsung watch?
I had one for a cup of coffee.
But you have to, if you don't know this about Oscar, he has to own things. Like, things are all that matters to him. So it doesn't, first of all, I never saw you wear it. You must have hated it.
No, I remember I got it and it opened in our studio in the DC area, and
I must have been sick.
He did a big unboxing and videotaped it
for our friend Drab T-shirt.
Well, somehow I missed that.
Well, you were doing your afternoon show.
Yeah, I was working for a living. I couldn't sit there in JO with these two. Did you use it? Did you like it?
It was so huge on my wrist, it just didn't work out.
Isolate that. Can we get that isolated, please, Trev?
Didn't work out.
Why do you believe that the Apple one is going to be any different?
The user interface for the new Apple Watch is based on
what does that mean?
A digital crown, which helps you navigate through the menus on the watch. It's not just touch.
I don't know what I don't understand one thing you just said.
I think people that are
he doesn't understand what he just said. That's just a buzz phrase.
What is a digital crown?
Well, right, I see the watch I'm wearing right now, the winder. Some people call it that as well.
It's what Oliver Platt wore in Ready to Rumble. Only 3 people that are listening got that joke right there.
So imagine this watch was the Apple Watch. The little crown or winder for it actually helps you navigate through the menus.
Okay.
Instead of going and pinching and zooming on the screen when you're covering up the real estate of the screen.
Right. Can I play Plants vs. Zombies on the phone? On the watch?
I don't think you can do that yet, but there are a lot of apps that have been ported already.
It just, to me, I walk around with my phone so much anyway.
Yes.
And I think we've talked about this. I don't see the need for the watch because I also tell time on my who doesn't tell time on their phone now? That's how everyone looks now to see what time it is. The watch as a device to me has been deemed irrelevant.
I think it's important to touch on simply because the health aspects of it go both ways. I know you're a big privacy guy.
Yes.
But if you'd like, it can actually track.
I'll only take a dump in front of you if I've known you for a week and a half. I'd have to have known you for a week and a half.
Ideally, the telemetry that's built into the watch could track certain things.
I don't know what that means either. What's telemetry?
Well, just if, for example, some people are saying that the watch is so smart that if a murder goes down, the information from the watch could, and if the person that had murdered or been murdered was wearing the watch, they could use that information from your heartbeat to see if when you died, something tragic had happened.
That doesn't scare you, dude?
I think it's pretty cool.
Isn't that Big Brother-esque?
Again, that's just a hypothetical in the future if these people are wearing these devices.
All right. To me, though,
there's one purpose for it to help solve murders.
No, that's
because
just
what
one
Oscar said all week was, you don't understand. The watch turns on when you raise your wrist. That was his big selling point.
Well, generally, Oscar's wrist is pointing down in a different location. And I would also say this about the wrist: don't you, at some point, do you want the chip underneath your hand, like in Demolition Man? Like, is that your goal in life?
I'm okay because I'm not doing it. I mean, the worst thing I can do is stumble on a bad category in an adult website.
Okay, but
if I do that, and I'm like, oh, gotta go.
You don't think people know when you're doing that? You don't think that there's
I think they definitely Google definitely they know me very well.
I don't want and I guess I'm naive because
they know.
Because of the phones. There's no difference in having a phone and a watch. They know where you are.
It's a little computer. Yes.
Who's they? I don't know.
The man, the government.
I wanted to talk about this at the top of the show before we get into anything else because one of the things, the first, I don't want to say the word bit. One of the first discussions that Oscar I ever had when we were doing a radio show was in Baltimore. And we talked about how when you were a kid, you used to get the snot beat out of you by your parents by a belt named Pedro Moreno.
Oh, I get shivers just thinking about it.
Now,
Pedro Moreno.
What does that mean in España?
In España?
I don't know what it means.
Like Spanish? Pedro Moreno was a nickname for basically the bruiser.
So, would you get, would the threat be, if you don't wise up, young man, I'm going to go get Pedro Moreno?
Pedro Moreno. And if you want to picture Pedro Moreno, it was a leather belt from the old country, Latin America.
With hooks on it.
And it didn't have hooks.
Oh, I thought it had hooks.
But it had braiding along the belt that actually I remember feeling the little braids.
It was a braided belt?
No, it was a leather belt with leather embroidering on it.
Better than Ezra wore this belt for that t-shirt. That's how braided it was. Okay, but
that was Pedro Moreno.
You would get hit with a braided belt?
Yes.
When did this start?
At a very young age. I don't think I remember, there isn't a memory of a time as a child that I was not beat for one thing or another.
Okay. That's why I wanted some perspective here.
Yeah.
Because, and again, for those of you that you probably know
actually
about the story
talking
now,
about this is, I thought I'd be a little more comfortable.
You got flushed a little bit, taking you back to a place maybe you don't recall so fondly.
It's called flooding. It's not really working for me right now. Thanks.
I was never, my parents were the quote unquote verbally abusive type, which at the time, you can give me some perspective. I almost would have rather been spanked or hit or something of that nature because just people screaming at you like an inch from your face to me is the worst thing ever.
It could be just as bad, but for the record, I've always said I was beat just enough.
Sure, yeah, yes. You weren't beat over the top.
No.
The Adrian Peterson story.
Yeah.
It's raised so many questions, and I've seen and again, I'm not, if I ever have kids, I don't have a kid. You don't have a kid?
No, not kids I know, not right now.
Drab doesn't have a kid.
Well, he dates one. We'll get to that later.
Our producer dates a child. Is that something that can be said to the people of Canada
just
and all of
18,
America?
Absolutely.
He's
40.
It makes it very awkward for all of us when he brings her around. That's a topic for another day.
Yes.
I don't think I'm going to use corporal punishment on my kids if I have kids.
Oh, that's a bold thing to say. It's funny because when we were coming up on the train, I was like, how do I say this without sounding like a complete maniac?
Right.
And I would say I am 99% I'm going to beat my kids.
And you're a guy. I don't think you should phrase it that way.
I'm 99%.
But that's
not that I want to.
That's not a healthy way of saying it. You should say physically discipline or corporal punishment.
I mean, you can't sugarcoat it.
We're going to punt them? Like, how are we going to beat your kids?
No. I mean, again, the switch and the belt were used on me, right?
The Will Smith song. They would drag Oscar in a room and play Switch by Will Smith, Drab, you didn't know this, at like 50 decibels. Then Oscar would cry himself to sleep. And
again, this Adrian Peterson story has moved at such a rapid pace.
It has.
That as I was reading the update just before we walked in, the fact that, I mean, he's been arraigned, he's paid $15,000 bond to get out.
But he's not playing this weekend.
He's not playing this weekend. The NFL has his own issues as we speak. And I sit here and I'm like, the guy was just doing what he knew. Well, and within his text messages, he talks about how he didn't mean to do what he did, and he was kind of setting a baseline for his children to understand that there are consequences when you do things the wrong way.
Did you see the pictures of the kids' legs?
I did.
Your legs, if someone were taking pictures and sending them into TMZ Sports or whoever it is,
TMZ Español,
did they ever look like that?
There was a moment when I played youth soccer, right? Shocker. I'm Latin. I played youth soccer.
Breaking down stereotypes left and right here on the Big O and Duke Show.
I remember as kids you play skins and shirts, right? Whatever.
Sure.
And
that's how Drab dates. Cruises by the soccer field. My goodness.
I'm not proud of this, and I'm sure there's reasons why I have issues in relationships at this point. But I know that I would be, because I was a latchkey kid growing up, so my parents, I'd always catch a ride from a neighbor mom or whatever to
catch a ride.
And I remember our coach said, "Hey, you're on skins, Oscar," and I knew that I just got a vicious beating.
Dude, you hid beating wounds?
I never told you this?
No.
Oh, man.
Honestly, no, I'm not just selling this. I'm putting it over for the show here.
No, yeah, I thought I told you.
What'd you say?
I said I couldn't take off my shirt.
Oh my gosh, I did too when I was a kid.
That all the time.
Yeah, but it was different because I had man boobs from a very early age, just as damaging as your parents beating you. Big man titties to push together.
You could never be on skins.
No, never. I was on skins once at a basketball camp, and it was Costanza on the subway, man. They were bobbling and flapping. It was the worst. Way more traumatic than anything you're talking about.
Yeah, so I remember distinctively as a child saying I couldn't be on skins.
Did the coach ask why?
Well, he asked why, and then because my childhood friend had a loving family, his mom, Mrs. Parker, walks over and she says, "Hey, you have to be on skins," because the coach wouldn't talk to her.
Right.
And I said, "Mrs. Parker, I can't."
Miss Parker? Miss Parker. Can I talk to you a minute, Miss Parker? And then, of course, Bernie Mac followed Miss Parker into the house and banged her silly. And then the dwarf chased her out and into the car.
I couldn't. And I remember it was a big, they had the little mini conference, and I was like, "Look, I can't take off my shirt." And I didn't tell them why.
But did any of the adults who were so nice to you, did they ever go to your parents or say, "Hey, are they touching you with your bathing suit
they probably
covers?"
thought I was just like a weird little kid that didn't want his shirt coming off.
Okay, but you're 40 now. Looking back on it, looking back on it, you don't think 42. Your parents didn't cross the line?
There was a bit we used to do, and we haven't called her in forever. But I like bringing it up once in a while after
it's a different culture,
had
too.
A few in like Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Sure.
And I say, "Hey, Mom, are you ready to apologize for beating us?" And
I remember doing this. It made me very uncomfortable at the time.
Things have changed. I know that it's supposed to be cultural, right? And while I think there's a better way to raise and discipline your kids, I also remember, and there's a part of me still to this day, I don't know if it's guilt or whatever it is, that I feel like I deserve some of those beatings, man. I knew that there was a line I could never cross.
The past 10 years I've known you, I agree. You deserve some of those beatings. I mean, you've deserved beatings since then. I think I know where you're going here. Before that, are you guys at all surprised with the Adrian Peterson thing? That so many people are saying that this is either no different or worse than the Ray Rice case with him punching his chick on video that just really threw the entire, North America into a tizzy.
I'm happy you asked that question. I'll say that this is completely different.
I think so too.
It is completely different. I'm not saying that child abuse is not a problem and people have to address it. But this, in my personal opinion, what Adrian Peterson did is not child abuse.
Well, that's I'm glad why you brought that up. And I know, Drab, you want to jump in. But when you look at what Ray Rice did to his wife, that's domestic violence.
Absolutely.
Game over. Guy deserves to be in jail, in my opinion. I'm kind of okay.
Too long.
Yeah. Whether or not the NFL is involved in this, whether or not they need to be held accountable, I'm okay with whatever happens to Ray Rice. The kid thing, the Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Isn't there a giant sect of our population that probably says, I'm guessing towards the middle states, the southern states, they say, I discipline my kid this way. This is something that happens in my household.
Yeah.
Like, who is deciding what's acceptable as far as who to discipline your kids and what isn't? I don't want to ever have to beat my kids until they have welts on their legs like Adrian Peterson did. But I guarantee there's millions of Americans that say, yeah, that happens on a weekly basis in our household.
I agree. And how is law enforcement, especially you here in Montgomery County, Texas, we're talking about Adrian Peterson, how are they to judge, because it's such a gray area, what is a responsible response for the parents?
Right. Because child abuse is a bitch, man. Like, it's...
And I've seen those. Look, I remember having marks like that as a kid.
Right.
I remember, and I'm not saying it's okay. I know there's a smarter way.
There's got to be a better way.
And if you'd like to chime in, 866-969-1969.
What do you want to say, Travi?
There's a difference between being, first of all, a little older. This was a 4-year-old kid.
Right.
Between getting spanked on the bottom, maybe with, your pants down or just wearing your underwear 1 or 2 times by your dad, boom, boom, get out of here, go to your room, and being whooped 15 times with a switch where he's hitting you in the nuts.
Kid got off easy.
Dude, he got whipped 15 times.
Did you get worse than that?
Oh, you kid, 15 times. You're lucky.
I mean, your mom should have gone to jail.
I'm not saying you're wrong. First of all, I don't.
You tell her that.
I don't necessarily. Well, we might get a chance for Drab to tell her that in person. I'm not saying you're wrong, Drab, but would you agree that 15 years ago this would be reported at just 15, not 30, when Oscar was a kid? That's actually a fair number. It would be reported completely different. Would it not?
I agree. But things have changed. A lot of things have changed in the last 20 years.
How about there'd be a handshake and say, look, just take care of this, and you move forward?
I'm not saying that what he did was right, because in my opinion, I would not do that. What I am saying is that the mock indignation from so many members of the media, which we've heard on, Opie with Jim and O&A for so many years, that's something that I feel passionately about as well. That's incredibly frustrating when everyone's like, well, whatever the punishment, I think it was Jason Locke on 4. I don't remember who it was. It might be Matt Miller, one of these guys that covers the NFL. Mm-hmm. They came out and said, whatever the punishment is for Adrian Peterson, it's not enough. Dude, there are all kinds of pockets of this country where what that is par for the course, business as usual. And you can't just say because I think it's wrong, it's wrong. Now, if there's laws set in place and they find that through the system and through the courts, yes, this is too much, go ahead and act accordingly. But don't act just because you saw pictures that you have some better grasp on this because it wasn't something that you went through.
I agree. And to compare this with the Ray Rice and then to paint with a broad brush and say, this is the violence we're talking about in the NFL.
Right.
I sit there and I'm like this guy this is what he knew. Now, are there better ways to discipline your children? Absolutely. I can say that now. But this is what he grew up with. And the cycle continues, right? He said, I got to set a baseline for my kids to know that when I say no, no. And who knows what transpired to get to that place. I know the kid's 4. I know he's 5. And I know what 4 and 5 can be. But it's not, you're not talking about now everybody in the NFL is beating their girlfriend/wives and now beating their kids.
I don't agree with what Ray Rice did, and I don't agree with what Adrian Peterson did. But if you're going to ask me who I think deserves what's being thrown down upon them, it's Ray Rice.
Yeah.
It's Ray Rice. Adrian Peterson, well, I don't agree with what he did. And I see those pictures of his kid, I'm like, oh, God, this is
Sucks
awful.
To see. I agree.
But to me, if you deck your wife the way that he did and drag her out of an elevator like a corpse.
No recourse.
And stand over her like Muhammad Ali, there is No debate on that.
No.
In my mind. There is a debate on how to discipline one's kid, and just because you don't agree with the way someone is raising their kid doesn't mean wrong. Because, Oscar, I don't like giving you compliments. I think you know that. But you've grown up as a successful adult. You love both of your parents. And I've heard you...
I respect them.
I've heard you say to me multiple times on this show, I'm glad they did that.
Yes.
And if what they did was abuse... Would you be saying that? I don't know.
I don't think I'd feel that way.
I don't think you would.
Neither is my therapist.
Well, maybe everything I just said was a crock of S.
No. I agree with that.
How many times a week you see in that therapist?
No, my therapist has never brought that up. She said that might have been excessive.
I think you need to up the dosage, whatever it is. Can we go 3 or 4 times a week?
Let's go to the phones, 866-969-1969. We'll start off with Bob in New Mexico. Bob, welcome to the show. Big O and Dukes.
Hey. I'm glad to hear you guys finally.
Hey, Bobby.
I've been seeing you guys advertised on XM. When I was a kid, my dad used to beat me with a piece of rubber conveyor belt that he'd get from work. It was about 1.5 inches wide at the top, went down, the handle was 1/4 inch thick. I was in second grade at that time. And
how old is that?
I think you're like 6 or 7.
7.
My mom finally left my dad when I was in 4th grade because I used to sleepwalk, and I went outside. When I came back in, my dad woke me up with the strap.
Oh, my God. Well, you're not even supposed to wake up sleepwalkers just for any reason whatsoever, much less beating them with...
Well, yeah, you try that in 4th grade. And then my mom, she had to raise 4 boys by herself, and she used to beat us.
Now,
my son's now 22, and my wife regrets not letting me discipline the kid.
Really?
My son is a lazy shit, has absolutely no motivation.
Right.
And, I mean, he does nothing at the house.
Are you glad, let me ask you something, man. Are you glad your parents disciplined you that way?
Kind of, because I was troubled.
Right.
When I was a teenager after my dad died. And if she hadn't disciplined me as much as she did, I would have been in worse trouble. I'd probably still be in prison.
Oh, wow.
Good Lord. Thanks, bud. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Walter White there. Here's the problem.
But see, what he paused there for a second and started thinking about, was he happy with what transpired?
Here's where it wouldn't work with me.
Okay.
And this is why I think that it's different from kid to kid. I have visual and visceral memories, like that I reenact in my head of times where my parents were just screaming. And like screaming in a way where I thought I was going to freak out and I thought I was going to kill somebody. Like I could not take it. If they would have taken it a step further just for me, because I'm, a wreck, an emotional wreck, I don't even know what would have happened. Like it would not have worked for me. I don't think.
Okay.
And so I can sit here and say, I'm glad my parents didn't do that. But if you're in the case of that gentleman where it sounds like there's some dysfunction in his family to begin with, does the physical abuse create more dysfunction, or does it help curtail the dysfunction? Like I don't think that we can know that. Yeah,
and you're right. It is from child to child. But I would say this. I'd say that it really depends on where. And again, I don't know if you can ever justify touching your child, but
whoa,
you know what I'm hitting them. That's what I mean. Please.
Is that what you meant?
No, that's what I meant.
I was thinking a talk show.
But I would say that there's different degrees of it. I think you can almost get to different degrees.
Why is nobody talking about that Adrian Peterson's son last October was killed by an abusive boyfriend of his baby mama?
But that wasn't Adrian Peterson.
Is it the same mother? I don't even know. Is it the same mother?
No, I don't think it's the same mother. And Adrian only met his son 2 months before it happened. Right. But your son is killed by a man beaten to death. And you're going to go and beat your other kid to the point where you're arrested for child abuse? Dude, that's unbelievable.
But what about when you're look, I just remember as a kid when my mom would swing that belt or that switch, or my dad for that matter, I would never look back at that and be like, oh, I can't believe they're being so violent.
But what Drab's saying is that guy's got a different perspective now because he had a child, an offspring that he produced, beaten to death.
I remember that story.
If anything, you run in the opposite direction away from corporal punishment. You say, I can't have anything to do with this because of what's happened already. it should have had, I see what you're saying, Deb. It should have had a more emotional response to him. That, like, the second he raises his hand, you think, if you're a caring human being, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, even if this kid burned the house down, I can't go down this road because of what took place in my family.
Absolutely.
866-969-1969. The lines are locked. Let's go to Stephen in Virginia.
Stephen,
you're on there.
my lisp is gone.
Stephen? All right.
That's Sven.
All right. Sven. I apologize.
Hello?
Sven.
Oh, hey, guys.
Idiot.
Jesus.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm a longtime listener. I've listened to you guys since you guys were on the air.
Shut up, Sven. This is our ex-producer, Sven, who now is just a loyal listener to the show, and he helps us out when we do our podcast down in Washington, D.C. What's up, Lloyd?
I've got to say, I as a kid growing up, as a brown kid growing up in America, I was beat when I was growing up, and it got to the point where, like, I wouldn't listen to my parents, and they went so extreme that, you know, I would urinate myself while they were beating me, and my parents would make me drink my own piss, and I turned out all right.
Yeah, so you didn't.
That's still up for debate, to be fair to you.
I'm a 30-year-old man, and I just moved out of the house. I'm in love with my mom, but everything's okay.
That's true.
All of that is true.
Sven, dude, when the beatings, and I'm being dead serious right now, because Sven is not doing shtick right now.
No,
this is a straight shoot.
We've heard this before.
His parents made him drink his urine, and he's 30, and he doesn't have a job, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And he's in love with his mom, and we don't know what's going on. Do you think that the corporal punishment, when they were doing that to you, do you think you're better off for it?
I think I honestly am better off for it. I think I would have turned out to be even a bigger freak than what I am right now. It sort of set me on a path of knowing what's right and what's wrong, because I'm such a maniac already. I think if I didn't have those boundaries and knowing that this is unacceptable in real life and I'm going to be beaten to a pulp if I act like this in society, I would have been a disaster. I'd probably be dead. Someone would have already killed me right now.
Okay.
Thanks, bud.
That's fair. Thank you.
His life is... It's chaotic, and he's had troubles with his sexuality, and he's had troubles with growing up, and it's a whole thing where maybe he would have been more effed up if his parents hadn't taken that strong a stance and they hadn't raised their hand instead of screaming, or maybe he would have had a more healthy adulthood. What I'm saying is, all I'm saying, Oscars, I'm not defending what Adrian Peterson did, but what I'm saying is there is a debate. There is a conversation to be had where, in my mind, with Ray Rice, there is no conversation to be had.
Fair.
What he did is wrong, and he should go to jail for it.
Let's take one more call before we take a break here. Melanie in Toronto.
Hello?
You're on there.
Hi.
Hi, how you guys doing?
We're good.
Doing well.
My first time even hearing you. I listen to this channel, but it's my first time hearing you.
It's a great channel.
Great show.
Frustrated with you two. First of all, you're saying, with one of you, I'm not sure which one, kept saying over and over, well, that's how he was raised, and that's what we knew growing up, and that's how... Can I ask you a question? Do you know how many things used to be done that we know better now is inappropriate and wrong and damaging to children?
But you also have to admit that if it's Oscar who you're talking about, he lived through that. He has the right to speak on it because he experienced those things.
No, you absolutely do. You're right. You're right. You have your right to your opinion. But this is what I'm trying to get you to even maybe understand, is that the beating of a child does nothing to curb their behavior. There's so many studies that shows that you can do way better with so many different, avenues, so many different things you can do. Listen, I'm from the Caribbean, and you can't get more beady than our people. You cannot get more.
You're a passionate people.
Well, listen, and I a lot of times I have to explain to parents that, like, look, where the beating of black people came from,
right?
It's slavery. That's the way you make people do things that you want them to do that you can't verbally explain. Do you know what I'm saying?
But Oscar's not black. He's very, very Spanish.
Latino.
He's from the Dominican Republic.
I'm talking about the Adrian situation. Like, one of you just said something that I thought was really, really profound, is that one of his kids was already killed in a...
That was Drab. Drab said that.
How do you turn around and beat? And I don't understand. I really don't understand.
Well, okay. Thank you for the call, sweetheart. We appreciate it. And thank you for listening. Drab was right. Drab made that comment. But Adrian Peterson is not the one that beat the child that died.
No.
So that should be said. But also, I think that what more we were commenting on was the reaction. Like, how could you possibly think that's even something that would be available to you to discipline your kids if you already went through that with your family?
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
But I see where Melanie's coming from.
It doesn't matter.
Very sweet, very passionate about the subject. It's not okay. There are better ways. But I don't know if it means this man isn't allowed to work his job on the weekend. I don't know if this man has to go to court and post $15,000 bail. And I also don't know if it's anybody's business unless somebody's being they're being hospitalized or things are happening to this point.
You understand though that it is a very murky conversation is where abuse, starts and where just punishment begins.
As a kid, I picked up the phone to call the police on my mom because I was just
How'd that go for you?
Didn't go. You know what happened?
What's that?
I picked up. I couldn't reach the phone because I was a little kid, right? My mom saw me reaching for the phone. She said, "Who do you want to dial?" I said, "I want to dial la policia." And she started dialing for me. She dialed 911 and said, "Tell them what I've done." Because by the time they get here, it's going to be too late.
Drab, this really explains a lot of the issues we've had with Oscar over the years. I mean, this is something that probably clears up a lot of the questions we have. Every time I hear this story, it clears up more and more. We're very excited to be here on the Opie and Jim Norton show station. I don't even know. SiriusXM Talk? I just want to make sure that
that's what they're calling it.
I just want to make sure that we call it the right thing. Sirius 206, XM 103. Dan Ackerman from CNET is going to be our guest at 9 o'clock. We're going to talk about the new iPhone. We're going to talk about Xbox, the new console, the PS4, all that stuff. We're also going to break into the Big O and Duke scam bag. Yes, that sounds disgusting, but that's what we call our mailbag. We're going to get to that probably in the, the 9 o'clock hour?
Absolutely.
All of that's coming up. You're listening to the Big O and Duke show. If you like what you hear, please check out bigoanddukes.com and at Big O and Dukes on Twitter. I do like that Eric Nagel.
Oh, yeah. Runs a tight ship. Runs a tight ship.
Bagling with the Sex is the best show he ever did, though.
I have to agree.
Best one he's ever done.
Big O and Duke show. Here on Sirius 206, XM 103, 866-969-1969 is the number. Feel free to chime in throughout the program.
Are we going to take rando calls at some point?
Yeah, they're on here. Trust me.
We'll get to them. We have an acre of thank yous. We probably should get the big ones out of the way right now, Oscar.
Please
just to be, sitting here. Opie.
Oh. Please.
We'd like to thank Opie. And if you're, one of our Horde members, and again, we're childish, we have a name for our listeners, make sure at Opie Radio, thank that guy. Appreciate it.
Thank him big time.
Because he had to okay this, and he did, which is amazing. Jim Norton, those guys. Don Wicklin, who runs all these stations.
Who doesn't know Don?
Great dude, and heard his name mentioned so many times on Ron and Fez that when I heard that he gave the okay for our show, I pulled my foreskin up over my face and looked like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. And it sounded like this when I talked. Because I had foreskin over. So thank you to Don Wicklin. Troy Kwan.
Oh, yeah.
Who made the production in and out for a one-off show. We really do appreciate that. So thank you to all those gentlemen. And, of course, E to the R, E-Rock in there, who has been tremendous to us. So thank you so much. It is our pleasure and a goal. Maybe we should talk about this before we get into the next segment, Oscar.
Please.
You don't understand. Like, if you're sitting there and you're an Opie and Jim fan, O&A fan, you're like, why are these guys there?
Yeah, these guys just got beat for a living.
You don't understand how long we've been working on this. And to give some perspective, 9.5, close to 10 years ago, almost to where we are right now, Oscar and I were doing middays on Live 105.7 in Baltimore, Maryland.
Yeah, Charm City, baby.
Love it. Just really great. Classy city and wonderful radio station. They really treat their talent well.
Oh, yeah. Not at all.
Can you hear me lying through my teeth right now? There's plaque flying off my teeth. I'm lying so hard.
Wow.
We're imagine doing this. We're on the air doing our show. Okay? We're on, I believe, after Howard Stern, before Don and Mike.
Yeah. Right in the middle.
Yeah, this was, it was a huge time slot, and our ratings were, at the time, dog-ass.
Yes.
They got better, but our ratings were bad. Opie and Anthony did a segment called The Golden Ticket, and I'm sure a lot of you longtime fans remember it. We took our phone screener, whose name was Caesar the Cheeseburger at the time, and we gave him CDs filled with our material.
Yeah.
We're on the air. Send him to Manhattan from Baltimore.
We're on the air. Our phone screener's not with us.
No.
we tell him that he's sick.
Bosses are walking by saying, where's
the cheeseburger?
Why aren't the calls being screened? Don't worry about it. We're getting live call-ins from him as he's driving to New York.
He's going up the turnpike.
Yes. And then reaches New York and gets to, it's not the same building they're in now. This is the SiriusXM building. They were in their giant XM complex at the time. He gets there, and the whole goal was for him to take our demos, hand them to O&A, and try to get us one of these golden tickets where we would then be part of their radio station.
Yeah.
And I remember it was cool and disheartening at the same time because he never got into the studio. But
he got into the lobby.
Yeah. And I believe he was in the green room at one time and handed our CDs to then, God rest his soul, Steve Carlisi. Yes, Steve the Bear.
Heard that name.
Yeah. Handed the CDs to him and said, hey, why don't you listen to these? And that's great. And we're talking about this on the air. We were eventually fired very quickly from that job.
I wonder why.
But we were actively pursuing another job while being paid to be on the air in Baltimore. Can you believe that, Trav?
We broke down the entire golden ticket situation for our listeners who are currently listening to us.
Here's another thing. This is fun. If you're a radiophile out there, you want to pull on the pud. I called in to O&A, and this is back at the MiFi. Do you know what the MiFi was?
Yeah.
So,
what's MiFi?
Okay.
You're going to love this, Trav, because you would almost, when he explains it, you're going to think it's a good idea.
Right. Well, he doesn't know because the gentleman that produces our show is suffering under the assumption that he's 16 years old.
Yeah.
And thinks that he grew up with smartphones and Xbox Live and all this nonsense. The MiFi was XM's first portable radio, and it was $400, and I bought it. $30,000 a year. Oscar and I are doing middays. I buy the MiFi because, hey, O&A got fired from WNEW, from WJFK. They're going to XM. I gotta buy the MiFi.
Also, you had that horrific commute from Virginia to Baltimore.
3 hours. I'm sure it was to Baltimore. It was from Towson. 20 miles above Baltimore to Springfield, Virginia. Google it.
I would drive by Chad on the highway.
Yeah.
And he would have his headphones.
I would have headphones on. That was the only way you could listen to the MiFi. It was the size. Imagine, where's your phone? You got your, what do you got? Your Android?
Galaxy.
I gave it away.
Yeah.
Your Android, duct tape 4 of them together.
That's the MiFi.
Hold on. Attach a wire with an antenna with a clip on it like a ballpoint pen has. You had to clip that to your shirt and then put the MiFi somewhere on your body, and that was the only way the XM would actually come through. That was what a MiFi was. It was a nightmare.
Huge. Though at the time, it was cutting-edge technology.
Oh, it was cutting-edge, all right. It cut into my bank statement. Because you had, and then,
that's how huge it was. We got it up here on the monitor
That's
now.
it! That's the MiFi. So, hold.
Well, at least you had earbuds.
Everybody calm down. We got to calm down.
I remember this.
Not only for Opie and Anthony, they were so scared of them on XM. You had to pay an extra $9 a month and get XL. Huh? That's the only way that you could get the, I believe it was called the high voltage station. Let me tell you something.
Bring me back.
Right. I didn't listen to any of the grunge stations. I didn't listen nothing. I'm listening to these guys yanking it.
Yeah.
And that was the only way you could do it. And Oscar would pull up next to me with his 30-minute commute, and I'm getting my earbuds in. I'm getting the goddamn antenna up on the roof. Yeah. I'm putting the MiFi in the dock. You had to have the special MiFi dock.
Right there it is.
There it is.
See it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I just threw it out last week. I found it in my house. I threw it out. I was so disgusted when I looked at it. That's it. That's what it came. Look at this. Post this on at Big O and Dukes. E-Rock's showing us pictures. That's the kit that it came with. See the remote control?
There are operating rooms in this wonderful city.
Absolutely.
That have less equipment to perform surgeries.
Why does it have 4 chargers?
Because none of them worked. One was for your house. You had to buy a dock for it.
You had to get a dock.
Do me a favor real quick. Ask me if there was Bluetooth.
Was there Bluetooth?
No, there was no Bluetooth back then. You see that thing on the bottom of that picture? That was the antenna you had to duct tape to the roof of your car. And then
you could put it in your windshield.
Oh, I'm
at the
sure,
top of your windshield.
I'm sure that worked. All that stuff came with it. I kept all the accessories because one day I was like, well, I'll sell this MiFi on eBay. Someone's going to want that. Nobody wants it. Nobody. So I tossed it.
Why didn't you just get it installed in your car where the radio goes?
Drab. It was the only portable unit.
And we're not like you. We don't buy cars we can't afford.
Yeah, you're the only one that's driving around in BMWs and make $30,000 a year. Enough of you.
Yeah.
That's how long back I go.
Yeah, the Saturn then.
Yeah, Saturn Ion.
Yeah.
Like a mug. Drove that some bitch
hole
ever.
in the bumper.
Big hole in the front because I drove into a trailer hitch once. True story. Don't drink and drive, everybody. You'll F your Saturn Ion up like you can't even believe it.
There's no patching that.
No. I got to thank Michael Corleone, Phoenix, Arizona. He's out there, bought my Saturn from me. Thank God. God bless him because nobody else wanted it. Giant hole in the front. Giant hole. 2 fists you could put inside of it.
Stolen at one time.
Just like Drab's mom.
A stolen car one time.
That's disgusting. I take that back. I apologize.
Do you remember when that car got stolen with the MiFi and they didn't steal the MiFi?
No. They left the MiFi. My car got stolen in Phoenix. The MiFi sit right there. Let me tell you what these people took. They were Oscars people, of course. They took the Washington Nationals license plate frame I had around my license plate. They took it all. And they left the MiFi.
That's how bad it was.
Because they're like, we don't know what to do with this. And I'm like, all right, I respect that from you guys. They gave me back my car. Phoenix PD gave me back my car. MiFi sitting right there. All the accessories. Big as a house.
It's so true.
That's how far back I go.
They didn't want to carry it with them, with all the goods they had stolen.
They announced Ron and Fez. I'm pouring hot sauce into the MiFi, trying to just jiggle it back to life. $400. Imagine what you could buy now for $400. You get a PS4.
There's some real history with this show.
I had the MiFi. Huge history.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you something. And I'm sorry, we need to move on.
No, this is phenomenal.
If Ron Bennington walked down that hall,
here we go.
I'm jacking off right in front of him. And I want to say that right now. I want to say it right now.
How far is Roosevelt Island from here?
It's not that far.
No.
Take a cab, see if
we go see Fez.
Old Fez. Well, I'd like to get my eyes on that mustache for myself. I'm in, baby. I'm all in to what's going on around here. Troy Kwan got kicked off the air. I was all in on that. I know about all that. I know about it all. I'm back there interviewing Roland like he's Dave Letterman. Because to me, I gotta be honest, and I don't want to say because I know
I actually had to walk out of that office.
Was it awkward?
Because I said, "Oh man."
Was I being awkward?
You weren't being. You were being polite, but you're on the brink of.
I know everything about Roland.
Yeah.
Everything there is to know about him.
You're on the brink of. I know that this is cool. Trust me, I'm happy, and you know that we were.
Oh, it's cool, baby.
I know this is fun, but I almost felt like pulling you to the side and say, "Look, man,
leave the guy alone."
That man's just trying to eat his hamburger.
He was. Roland was having his supper, and I'm asking him about episodes from 4 years ago.
I went and did fake producer prep for 20 minutes. I couldn't take it anymore.
Why? Because I had too many questions?
1,000 questions.
He got 4 bites into his dinner.
Look, I got a lot of questions, all right?
Tell me about that one time.
Shut up, man. Whatever. Yes, E-Rock.
Sorry to interject, but you can tell them about the book that I gave you to look at.
Well, Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Eric Nagel gave me and it's an old school one. I think we all had one of these. Big CD folder. Do you guys remember those?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You bought them Best Buy or Circuit City.
Yeah.
Open them up. They could hold 100.
Put your entire collection in there.
200 CDs.
Yeah.
Oh. He hands it to me and he goes, these are all the CDs for Jocktober.
Oh.
All the CDs for Jocktober. What do you think I did?
What?
Yam bag all over it. Oh. Hold the yam bag out, put it right into it, close the CD case. I was steamed up. It's an amazing time. And then I immediately said, hey, can I take a picture of the Jocktober CDs and tweet it? And he said, no. And then Roland goes, do it anyway. And I'm like, Roland, I can't do it. I can't get away with the chicanery.
Did you just do Roland?
Yes, I don't do a very good Roland, but I've heard guys on this show do Roland so many times.
All right, let's go to the phones.
I think me and Roland had a good rapport. I enjoy his food show.
Remember, Dan Ackerman from CNET.com will join us shortly. Speaking of technology.
Drab, I could use a beer, please.
866-969-1969. Let's go to Alex in Baltimore. You're on Big O and Dukes. What's up?
Hey, guys. Love the show. Having a good time tonight.
Thanks, man. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, you sound like
Not
it.
a problem. You guys left out the worst XM unit of them all.
What's that?
There was that old mobile, portable one.
The Roadie.
You actually, it was like a frame that you put the bigger unit into.
Yeah.
So it was like you took one unit and you shoved it in the other, and then the antenna for it was on top of the headphones. So you were walking around with
God, I do remember that. How much did that cost you?
Oh, shit, I don't even want to say. I think it was a lot.
It was a lot, man. The technology just wasn't there. And the fact, but sir, what's his name?
His name's Alex.
Alex, you have the perspective now, don't you, where when you are able to download that app on your phone and then plug your headphones into it, you appreciate how wonderful that is. Where these little dickhead 14-year-olds that have been growing up with Pandora and podcasts their whole life, they have no idea how wonderful that is.
So real quick one. The first day O&A came to XM, I was in a car dealership waiting for my car to get serviced.
Yeah.
I had that mobile unit out, plugged into the wall because the battery sucked.
Yep.
With a headset in my ears and then an extra antenna on the windowsill of the frickin' car dealership.
It was like in Ghostbusters.
It was the worst, man.
Yeah, it was the pits.
All right. You
Thanks,
guys keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
You did what you have to do.
Yeah.
And we understand that perspective because Oscar and I have been fired so many times that we should not have any fans of our radio show.
No.
And yet they follow us to the disgusting, dingy hole that is the internet. They jump down that pipe hole with us.
God bless them for that.
On BigOandDukes.com.
Yeah. Speaking of God bless, Batista.
What about him?
He was so kind to tweet out about the program.
He's sexy? We all know that, right, Drav? The Dreamboat?
Of course.
What's Oscar going to tell us that Batista's good looking?
Dave, friend of the show, would be remiss not to thank him.
Oh, of course, star of Guardians of the Galaxy, Drax the Destroyer himself. Big fan. Put us over on Twitter right before we took to the airwaves. Wonderful gentleman. Buddy Joey Mercury, of course, of the WWE. Put us over big time. We need that sort of thing. Let's get to this before Ackerman's on, Oscar. And Drabby, let us know. Just wave to us if you see him.
I'll grab him, bring him in.
Goose stepping down the hallway.
Tall drink of water, I heard.
Did you guys watch The Woman Who Wasn't There?
Yes, I watched it because you had tweeted out about it earlier this week. And that doc, by the way, we talk about online networks all the time. Netflix, your Hulu Plus. I found it on Hulu Plus right there waiting for me.
Yeah, I found it on Netflix.
Okay.
And I honestly, between you and I don't know how television exists anymore. Because between Amazon Instant View, or whatever it's called, I don't remember what the service is called. I know it's called Prime, but when you have it on your Xbox or whatever, it's called like Instant View or something like that. Netflix.
Instant video.
Yeah, that's what it is. And what you said, Hulu Plus. The fact that you can, whenever you want, plunk down. I was watching The Naked Gun the other day, just because, here it is. I don't have to wait for this to come on Comedy Central. Here it is on Netflix.
Well, you say that even on demand here at SiriusXM. On demand.
For instance, people will be able to listen to this show under the Friends of the Show online tab on the Opie and Jim channel.
Yeah.
Right there, Sirius 206 XM 103. It will be on demand. You can listen to it for quite some time.
On demand. So you can get it when you want it. And exactly, as you mentioned, I love listening live, and I there's nothing like watching live TV, but if you miss something like this documentary, you can go back and get it anytime.
Here's the difference. Shows like I love Ray Donovan. I don't think I've ever watched a live Ray Donovan. I always get it on demand. But Drab, I think you'll agree with me. I can't watch sports on demand.
I could never do that.
I can't do it because
it's pointless.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to watch that live.
There are people, I would say at least, especially in football season, once a week that say, don't say anything about the game, I'm going home, my DVR.
Go F yourself.
Get the hell out of here.
Get out of my world.
Do you tell everybody around you and you turn off the radio and TV because it's everywhere?
What do you tell Al Gore to uninvent the internet, dickhead? Pound it up your ass. So there was this, and again, I think this documentary was made in 2012. That's what I think it was. And the way that I found out about it is I come home, my wife goes, have you seen this? I said, no. She goes, well, Black Lauren told us to watch this. And I said, okay, well, what is it? She goes, it's a documentary about 9/11. And I believe this was either 9/11 or the day after. And I said, look, I can't watch another 9/11 documentary. It bums me out. I can't take it. She goes, you have to watch this one. And I said, okay. And throw it on. And you watch the beginning of it. And again, you got to remember the title is The Woman Who Wasn't There.
Yeah.
Within the first 5 minutes, I realize, oh my God, the woman wasn't there. And I started running around the house, waving my arms over my head like a grunt that you strapped a plasma grenade to in Halo. Like, I could not believe what was going on. Did you guys hear of this particular story before I started screaming about the documentary? Like, did you know?
I had remembered there was a story on the news, because I'm a news junkie that way, about it, but I didn't know the details.
Nobody cares.
News junkie? What does that even mean?
I am.
Oscar talks about Brian Williams, who, by the way, I would know Brian Williams if he came in this room and sat on my face. I have no idea who Brian Williams is. Oscar talks about him like he's Santa Claus when you're 8 years old.
No greater moment outside of the moment we're having right now.
I mean, it's a tremendous moment. But
if he came and sat on my face, I'll tell you. I didn't care if he just came from the gym.
Happy birthday, Oscar. Oh, he just rode in a decathlon. All right, he's coming to sign you out. Great, 2 thumbs up. Trav, have you ever watched Brian Williams?
I've watched him a couple times.
You aware of who he is?
I'm aware, but I could care less.
The 9/11, so the story is, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, there's this morbidly obese woman with short hair. Look, I don't want to sound misogynistic. I don't want to get too outside of the box here.
Please.
But if you can think of a more annoying description of a person than what I just said, I'd love to know what it is.
Yeah.
Because to me, that adds up to annoying. They show her in this documentary, and again, it's called The Woman Who Wasn't There. And she's, she was a survivor of 9/11, and she was
advocate.
Oh yeah,
she was on a council, part of a group.
Worked her way up to president.
Oh, if you took this person, and she was actually part of 9/11, you would think this person's a saint.
And her name was Tanya Head.
Yep,
Tanya Head, and she's a survivor.
Yeah.
Her arm is all effed up. She has scars all over her arm. And her story was that she got burned and then that she was saved by this firefighter wearing a bandana. And I guess that eventually was her undoing in the documentary.
It wasn't a firefighter. It was just a good Samaritan that was in the tower.
Sure?
Absolutely.
With the guy in the red bandana is a famous story.
He's a famous story.
Yeah.
Like he's like the Robin Hood of 9/11.
Yes.
Absolutely.
That gentleman was just another person that she said was saved by that gentleman.
And she gets pulled out and she's saved, and then after that she goes on to marry her, or she'd married her fiance, and then
that was also supposedly in the towers.
Right. And then what happened? He died.
There were so many layers to this story.
Dave was in the other tower.
He died.
That's what it was.
Yes. Because he had stolen a cab from her, and there was just this love story, and she worked for Merrill Lynch Financial.
Meanwhile, Dave was like a successful, good-looking businessman.
And she looks like Peter Griffin with the wig.
Yeah, she looks like, she does not look good. She's a I don't want to throw stones. She's a hog, hog beast. Hideous hog beast. So she works for a survivor group.
Yeah.
And does tours and does all these different things where they go down to ground zero and they're saying, hey, this is what happened and this is a survivor. And you want to believe those stories.
You want to. You actually sit there and you see Giuliani and pictures of her and you just sit there. You're like, oh my God, this woman's done so much.
That's what's so unbelievable about this documentary is that they have so much footage of her talking, meeting famous people, meeting, Rudy Giuliani, meeting all the, doing activities down at Ground Zero.
Giving speeches.
Here in New York. Yeah. They go as far as to show her trying to bump other people off inside of this organization of 9/11 survivors. And they're interviewing her friends, and they're interviewing people that know her intimately and saying, how much better they felt about what happened to them.
What a support system.
Because of what this Tanya Head woman went through. And she faked the whole thing.
Complete fraud.
Made it up. Wasn't in the country the day that it happened.
No. She was in Spain, for God's sake.
Spania.
Yes.
Same place Oscar's from. Right, Trev?
From there.
So what's the point of it, though? There's no money scam.
She didn't bilk $1.
That's why they couldn't arrest her. She was looking for attention.
That, to me, is the most confounding thing of this whole documentary, is there are people out there, and we've always said this, these are the same people that wore the Ray Rice jerseys to M&T Bank Stadium last week when they're, Thursday night when they're playing the Steelers. Why would you do that? Is it because you believe in Ray Rice or because you think a television camera is going to be on you? It's that reason.
Both the men and the women. Both of them.
Yeah, well, that was what was so confounding about it, was that you have men and women both supporting this guy who just knocked a woman naked from the waist down. This woman never got $1 from this. She was just a big fat thing that got an enormous amount of attention from police officers, from political figures, from other survivors, and believed, when you see these interviews in this documentary, believed every word she said.
And for all this time and attention, you're talking about 6 years. 6 years of this just going down. It's almost like an emotional Ponzi scheme. And
that's a good way of describing it.
As you sit there.
That's exactly what it was. Just building upon motion and building and building.
And you're sitting there and you say, okay, when, as the documentary's coming to a close and her lies are unraveling, when does she get put away? When does something happen to her where there's a price that she pays? And I'm not talking about even a physical beatdown. I'm talking about something that the courts can do.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
We know how this thing ends.
Yes.
And we saw what she did. What do you think, if there was no court of law, what's her punishment? If it was left up to Schmosker Santana, what's the punishment for this woman, this head woman? Oh, my
God. You got to get some jail time, man. You have to get some jail time.
Grabby?
I don't know. It's too emotionally disturbing to even want... I'd want her to go away, which apparently she's done.
Did you watch the very end?
Yeah, I thought that's what was happening at the very end.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that.
I didn't understand the end.
Do you remember in China when they tied that guy to a pole and whipped the snot out of him?
Yeah, the public
flogging.
Public flogging.
You take her down to 9/11, where all those people died. You read all these articles. I heard Ron and Fez talking about it. All these firefighters and first responders that are still suffering the effects and are still dying because of running into that building that day. And you take a sock full of wood screws and you beat her until she's unconscious. And then you wake her up with a Sara Lee pie and you beat her again. And you say, hey, if you wake up again, we'll cut your hair a little shorter. She wakes up and you beat her again into unconsciousness. I don't think you can kill her, but I think you have to beat her until she knows what she did wrong.
You know, it's...
with a sock filled with spark plugs.
I mean, wasn't there been enough newsworthy stuff this week for you to maybe not promote beating a woman?
Look, I don't know if she's a woman at all.
Well, to be fair, if we're going on record, Chad said, look, you don't hit your kids, so I'll give you that.
Yeah, you
don't hit a woman in the first segment of the show.
Yeah, and you did say that earlier.
You can hit this woman with a sock filled with bars of soap.
Yeah, not kill her.
No.
There's got to be some punishment. Something, I would say, I guess why I go to jail time is because she technically didn't break the law, but she really effed with a lot of people that have already suffered enough.
Would there be one person, again, Drab's saying that I'm going too far, Oscar, if you told everyone in America, let's just leave it to America, this story, and you're
no court of law,
you're crumbling up birthday candles into a tube sock and beating her with it, right? And they said, why are you beating that woman? That's terrible. And you said, watch this documentary. Yes. Would one person stop you?
The documentary discussed you. I don't think anybody would stop you.
Thank you. She is.
If you knew that she would survive and she could come back from her injuries.
And then they go in this documentary.
And it could be a guy or a girl. Let me make that very clear.
It's more annoying.
A guy or a girl.
Okay, but be honest. Is it more annoying that it's a big fat woman?
Well, that's because our society stinks.
Is it more annoying?
If it was a hot chick, then I'd be like, oh.
No, it'd be annoying. But Oscar, I want an honest answer. Is it more annoying?
Is it more annoying? If I'm being honest, because it was Peter Griffin with a wig on.
Say it.
Yes. I sat there, I said, this cow, how could somebody get away with this?
So at the end of the movie, right, we find out what's going on. We find out that she's faked the whole time. She's deceived her friends. She's deceived her family. She's deceived them all.
Yes.
She disappears.
And
nobody sees her.
Poof.
Just like, Kaiser Sose. Like that. She's gone.
Yeah.
If Kaiser Sose ate Mr. Tagagi, or whatever his name was at the end of the movie, and he picks him up with a cat. There's a guy randomly, like, iPhone filming on the streets of New York.
Looks like the Cloverfield monster.
And you see this. Ah! Ah! She's, like, waving her arm and, like, telling him to go away, and she's just there.
She's disappeared, and she's lurking in the city.
She's in New York.
She's in the city.
2 years later.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Big as ever, hair short as S.
Just living her life.
She's got the Max Headroom haircut.
This is when you know somebody has some serious, like, they're a serious sociopath. And by that, I just mean a lot. She didn't even try to hide the fact, didn't even disguise the way she looked.
Because I guarantee she doesn't think she did anything
Probably
wrong.
not,
that she believes that happened to her.
Pretty wild. All right. Speaking
is Ackerman here?
Yeah, speaking
of mentally disturbed.
Going from the lies to the truth about tech. He'll join us later as soon as we come back from the break. Dan Ackerman.
Yeah, he'll be here from CNET.com. It's at Big O and Dukes. Give us a follow on Twitter, at Big O and Dukes on Instagram, Facebook.com/Big O and Dukes. We're very, very happy to be here. We'll take you all the way up to 10 p.m. Yeah. You know John Norman's listening right now. I just saw him tweet, yeah.
There you go, John Boy.
Tweet us at Big O and Dukes.
Big O and Duke Show, thank you for joining us. If you have any questions tech-related, we'll be free to take them as we have a special guest in studio.
Snaps.
Senior editor from CNET.com, Dan Ackerman joins us.
Hey, guys. Good to be here.
This is actually a special moment for us because Dan, how long have we been having you on shows that we do?
Oh, it's got to be 6 or 7 years, if not more.
Easily.
And he's a big swinging dick. And what Dan needs to know, CNET.com is where you can see what he's doing. ABC News, just all over the place. Yeah. The guy's everywhere. Oscar is in love with Dan. And it's not a joke. It's not a bit. You came back. What was the conference that I didn't understand that you went to?
Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas.
He comes back from
Everybody
CES.
knows CES.
Not everybody.
He goes, Dukes. There's a bronze statue of Dan Ackerman out in front of CES. You're not going to believe it. I can believe that.
There's a lot of networks that have a lot of cartoon-sized sets there. That CNET has the biggest set, and your mug, because you can tell the hierarchy of who's really famous and who's like almost just starting out. Or almost just got signed a contract the week before.
As Drab would say, nubs.
Yeah,
that's what he would describe it as.
And you're right in front. Big profile, big picture.
They get away with paying us less by putting our big faces on things occasionally. I do love that. It was like a 4 or 5 year old picture. It was about 30 pounds heavier, giant mutton chops, and like a soul patch that I apparently had since the late 90s. And nobody told me about all these years. And I looked at it. Nobody told me about that soul patch. What was I thinking?
Well, yeah, then it was popular. I mean, people were accepting that. Like,
I just kept it an extra 10 years.
He's got the soul patch. He's holding on to that as well.
The Drab was spitting mad about how bad the stream was for the Apple deal. How does a company like that with the resources they have bone that up?
They can pay for YouTube, but they can't pay for a stream.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And the guy who's in charge of the stream, now he's sweeping up the Apple Store in Siberia, and that's how they get you.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Things haven't changed much, but they've changed a lot overall as far as not the brands that are making this technology, but overall the technology that's being made by these brands. And before we get into it again, the number is 866-969-1969 if you have any questions for Dan. But for Chad and I, our biggest deal before we get into the TVs and the Apple iPhone, and
I want to ask him about Destiny
and the Apple Watch. We're big gamers, right? Especially Chad. He's held on to that mantle for a decade now.
Yeah.
And we both bought the Xbox One.
Mm-hmm.
We when everyone said it was sold out, we found a guy that worked at a certain store and helped us out.
It was the Microsoft store.
Yes. And he said,
it's not like it was a back alley speakeasy.
But we got a guy to get us, so we didn't have to wait a month.
Sure.
We have to get this console. Got a bunch of games.
Give out his name so he can be fired.
And we sat there after we got the games, played a couple of them, and said, "Well, why did we spend the $700, $800 on this thing? We can't even play the games we want to play."
And that's what happens with every new game console when it comes out. I think the first launch I covered was probably the Dreamcast back in the late 90s when I worked at a website called UGO. That was like a gaming website.
I loved UGO.
You'd always find the console would come out, and then the next year would be when the games would actually start coming out because it took people a year to figure out how to make games for them. So the first year is always like a dead year.
So, and this is something that I have debated with people quite a bit. You don't see any difference in between the lull for the One and the PS4 and the past consoles. I feel
if you went back historically, you'd see the same articles being written about every generation where they go, oh, there's like one good game, where's everything else? And then over the course of 5 or 6 or 7 years, you go, oh, it was always good, but you forget that first year was always kind of a lame year.
That big black Xbox had Halo from the jump.
And that's the one game. Yeah. And what else do you remember? Perfect Dark Zero?
Look, I'm with you. Oh, God, that was awful.
The one with the little creatures running around.
What's the one game right now? Give me the one game, because I can get them all for my 360 right now.
Well, that's true, because so many people bought those old consoles, millions and millions. I had to do some research recently. That's such an install base. They're taking games, even games like Destiny, and they're making the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3 versions, and they suck, because they're just like, we got to get them out there. Let's just dumb them down, put them out there. Really? I had a bunch of people come by my office this week to see Destiny on a PS4, because they all had it for the PS3, and they're like, this game sucks. Why is everybody talking about this? And I put it up on the PlayStation 4, and like, oh, now I get it. Okay, I got to go buy a PlayStation 4 now.
Oh, so the titles that are out on the lower generation systems, they're just dumbed down versions of
shovelware. That's what we call it. They shovel them out there during that transitional year or two.
That makes more sense.
Hold on. I agree with. Look, I'm not going to disagree with Dan Ackerman, but I bought Watch Dogs for my Xbox One, and I sat there and I waited for that game to jack me off, and it didn't. It didn't.
Right there with you.
Oh, well, then, but the hype for that was as big as any launch title for any other, new system that was out.
It's almost like one of those big budget movies where they keep having overruns and delays, and they're going back and doing more reshoots and working on it, and you go, that can't be good. That's not going to work out well, because that got delayed by like 6 months or something.
And they also lied to you with Watch Dogs, because when they showed the trailers at E3 and all that, they showed it in this resolution that you had to have a supercomputer to have. And now the PS4 can't even run anything close to that. So the version you got at home on your console was just another dumbed down version.
Are you playing your PS4, Dram?
Only sport games. FIFA, Madden.
Not as much as you thought you'd play it, right?
I know. I'll get the games that come out this Thanksgiving.
All right, well, let's talk about Destiny. It's getting rave reviews, and it's from Bungie that I think most people trust. Is it worth all of the hype and the coverage we've seen?
I mean, it's pretty good. It's probably the most fun thing I've played on this generation of systems, and the best looking thing, except for that Silent Hill teaser. It's called PT. Did you guys play that?
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro produced it, and it's just like you're walking down a scary corridor 50 times in a row, but it's freaky, and it actually looks like almost photorealistic. But Destiny looks really good. I definitely did not spend all afternoon with my wife and 2 TVs and 2 PlayStation 4s playing co-op. That definitely did not happen today while Dan Jr. was taking a nap.
You found a good one. You found one that was worthy of your seed, Dan Ackerman.
Dan, before we switch topics and continue, just a quick call. And I know that you have journalism background as far as people, talking about games, writing about games. And this guy has a good question here. Cody in Alabama, what's up, buddy? You're on there.
Not much. I just had a question for Dan about how do you avoid bias while writing reviews for video games?
It's a great question.
You bet. I mean, I think especially in the game field, it's very tough because a lot of the people who write about games are kind of gamers and fans first and kind of writers second. And the people I kind of came up with maybe from the late 90s up until now were all sort of journalists first. I used to cover the beverage industry. I can tell you about truck bodies and all this other stuff. And I just happened to end up covering, technology and games. I used to write about nightlife and clubs and DJs and then how they put soda into plastic bottles, all kinds of stuff like that. So I think you want somebody. The guy Brian Crescente, who you guys may know from Polygon, he was like a crime reporter at the Denver Post. You're looking for guys who were like real boots on the ground reporters first. That's my favorite kind of game writer because they have the background and the chops to really write.
Did he work for Engadget or someplace before?
He ran, I think, Kotaku.
We had him on the show.
Big long hair.
100% chance we had him.
Kind of looks like the devil.
One of our favorite guys in front of the show is Dan Shu. Dan Shu, he's just a legend in the business, and
he used to run EGM.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that if there's a game that he doesn't like, he doesn't stop. He just tells you, I didn't like.
But it is tough because I wasn't a Genesis guy. I was a Super Nintendo guy. So when I look back on Genesis, F them. To me, it would be easy to fall into that if I'm Dan and I have to cover I grew up playing this, and this. So if I go back and talk about something else, I'm not going to review it as favorably. So I understand the question.
Right, then you end up kind of being almost a Fox News type where you're so biased and people go, hey.
This is Chad's favorite channel.
Hey. I'm definitely not a mass. I was the MSNBC type.
Dan, let's talk about Destiny, if you don't mind. With the hottest game, so much buzz. Your thoughts overall?
I went through a whole cycle with Destiny, thinking about it last year at E3, the big video game trade show this year, and up till it finally came out. The whole time I heard about it, people were going, "Oh, this is going to be big," but it's basically this Bungie hype because of Halo. And I said to myself, I don't know what the game is about even after a year. No one can describe the actual plot. Everything looks very generic, very kind of, okay, a bunch of sci-fi guys shooting each other. I don't have high hopes for this. Then the alpha came out, then the beta came out. Before that, we played a little bit at E3, and it played so well. It got past a lot of those problems for me. There's still it's like Titanfall. There's still no real story.
Right.
It's still very generic. It looks like every other sci-fi shooter, but those Bungie guys, all those years they spent making Halo, they must have learned something because it just has that magic feel that you really want from a game where you really feel like you're in touch with the controller and the character and you're in there, you're in the game. So I think super generic, but plays super well. So it's worth my time so far.
During the break, I told you, we talked about Borderlands, and I'm a bigger fan than I think you are, but the role-playing shooter genre to me is the future. Like it opens it up so it's not just I'm walking, it's not, Doom or Wolfenstein where you're just walking through and this is what you do. You can customize, there's replay value, and shooters just seem to be what people want to play. Do you see that kind of opening up even more?
That's exactly it. Open is the key word there, that kind of open world concept.
Right.
And that's what Borderlands was. That's what Destiny is a little bit. That's what games like Skyrim and all those Elder Scrolls games are. And I think we're going to see a lot more of kind of traditional shooter mechanics mixed with those open worlds because people want that sort of sense of expansiveness. You've got a big fancy next-gen console. You want it to be able to do more than just run down this corridor, then run down that corridor.
Speaking of next generation, let's get to the biggest news of this past week. Let's get the Apple keynote.
Keep it in your pants.
We referenced it earlier. 2 new iPhones, an Apple Watch. Let's go with the phones first. Your thoughts? 2 different sizes: the 6, the 6 Plus. Chad here.
I already ordered the 6 Plus.
He's in the 6 Plus
camp.
Me
too.
Yeah, I'm waiting an extra month now. Goddammit.
Apparently, he's got a timeline situation.
You didn't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to pre-order it?
I didn't because I thought I was getting it on October 5th, and now I find that I'm waiting till November 17th. I got to wait for my upgrade. My life is ruined.
Another $300 he didn't save.
Now, I did get up at 3 in the morning, but just to go to the different websites and see what happened so I could maybe write about it or tweet about it. Just because I happened to coincidentally order one at the same time doesn't mean I normally would have gotten up at 3 a.m. Anyway, maybe. But the Apple Store was down for like an hour or so when it was after it was supposed to be up, and people were freaking out about that. If they can't do the stream right and they can't get the store up, maybe they're putting all their energy into the watch. I hope
so. As far as phones, which one did you choose?
I went with the Plus, and I went through almost like Destiny, this whole cycle of going, these big phones are stupid. Oh my God. Oh, everyone has one. Oh, my friend has one. He seems to like it. That's weird. Oh, here's a Note 3 over here. Maybe I'll try it out for a little while. Hey, this is kind of good. Okay, now I got to get one.
Oh, so you got sold on the bigger body.
Big screen envy is what I call it.
My deal, first of all, if anyone's seen the Anaconda video from Nicki Minaj, you get sold on the bigger body almost immediately. But my deal was, we took the train up here, Dan, right? I had to take my iPad and I took my phone.
Yeah.
If I got that goddamn 6 Plus, I don't have to take 2 devices. I take one, and I feel like that I'm always walking around with my phone in my hand anyway. Oscar's bitching about how you're going to put it in your pocket, how you're going to store it. I'm like, I feel like most of the time I'm walking around with it anyway. I don't wear those. I'm walking around with it anyways.
I mean, I got into that with this. The Galaxy S4 is what I'm using right now. With a 5-inch screen, you can put a whole 30-day calendar on one screen, the whole email inbox, great for reading Kindle books and stuff. And when I used the Note, it was even better. It's tough to go back once you had a bigger screen. It's tough to go smaller once you had bigger.
Yeah.
I don't even know where I want to go with that.
Been told that by several women.
I believe it. Now, people have already pre-ordered. They sold out some of these phones, if not most of them, especially the 6 Plus. You're pushed back till November, like Chad here.
Yeah.
We have to wait till the new year, and I hate when Apple does this. Mm-hmm. They announce a product, and you still have to wait till the new year.
That's pretty rare for them.
Yeah, well, they've done that with the Mac Pro.
Yeah, Mac Pro.
Last year.
Is it the watch?
No, the Mac Pro's the big guy.
The Mac Pro is the watch. The one that's pushed back.
Yeah, the Apple Watch is pushed back to the beginning of the year.
They can push that back to 2030. I'm not going to buy one.
It's a weird thing. I mean, that thing where they showed off the watch, that was more of a show off for sort of developers and people in the industry. They had to kind of get their word out there and give people SDKs, which are software development kits, so they can make stuff for the watch. They'll come back later and kind of make the consumer case as best they can, probably in January. Kind of like they did with the original iPad.
Did you buy
But it's also awkward, Oscar, because they actually had to unveil the watch by pulling it out of Christopher Walken's ass. You remember that at the Apple conference?
I must have been
holding on to this. I think he went to the bathroom. Of course, then he died of dysentery after that.
Did you buy into the digital crown and their user interface that they compare that they're not just shrinking down the phone to a watch. They've built a new interface for that watch.
Seems like you got to sit there and scroll through it all day to get to the app you want every time. And I'm not sure I buy that. I'm not sure I buy any of the smartwatches. I hate being a skeptic about this.
Thank you.
He said I'm
None
not
of them
sure.
really work. Dick Tracy
Well,
had
you're
his
an asshole.
smartwatch back in 1930, and that's probably about as far as we've gone. I always say to people, take the whatever $300 or $400 you'd spend on like the best smartwatch ever. Buy yourself a nice wristwatch. It'll look better. It'll always work. Girls will dig it, and you'll get a lot more kind of social use out of it.
But there's no other reason to have a watch, right? Like it's a status symbol,
Watch
some
is
sort of
status
accessory.
symbol. It's bling.
Hey, thank you. You have a clock on the phone. Everything that you want to do is on the phone. Dick Tracy didn't know you were going to have a mobile phone you could carry around with you. We got to get over the. Did anyone buy the Android watch?
No, of course
Was it
not.
successful? Thank you.
I bought it, and then I had to give it back.
What do you think?
Which one did you buy?
The Galaxy, the original Galaxy.
Oh, the original.
Yeah.
And then they came out with like 6 other models within 6 months. Like every month there was a new
Sent it right
Samsung wristwatch.
What do you think about Dan backing your pal up? What do you think about that?
I'm actually
Yeah.
shocked.
All right.
Shell shocked right
Tech
now.
expert Duke.
Shell shocked.
Thank you.
Before we get out of here, the first time I ever heard that. Let's talk about
You're going to hear it a lot more often.
these televisions, right? So now you've got the curved television. I can't go into any big box store and not see the curved television being pushed at me. The flat screens, which I think are just fine, their prices are falling down, and now you've got these curved screens coming at you because they say that you engage into the content. Is that true? Is there enough content that's 4K that's out there, or is this another 3D situation?
Yeah, that's like two different things. There's the 4K, and then there's a curved screen. They're trying to push them both together, and your point about the 3D is exactly right. Go back a couple years. Everybody was saying 3D, that's the future of TV. Every TV has to have 3D. You're going to love it. And then nobody bought it, and then you don't even hear about it anymore. No one even mentioned it. It's actually still built into most TVs. You'll just never use it. So the same thing with the 4K and the curved screen. They're just trying to get another gimmick for you because you know what? The TVs last a long time now. You buy a 50-inch plasma, you're good for
and they're pretty
probably
great.
5 or 6 years, and they look fine. Now, that said, we have the big curved Samsung in our office. We were watching the Apple keynote on it when it was actually streaming.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. One of my coworkers, I'm not going to take credit for this, came up with the phrase that the curved TV is the a-hole TV. Because there's
an a-hole to the left of me.
There's one perfect seat to sit in. If you're right in the middle and it's curving around you, it's awesome. If you're everyone else on the couch, you're kind of left out. And there's one guy in the middle who said, I got the greatest seat.
And how much are they?
You can get one now. I think the lowest
$5,000 maybe.
Yeah.
You should definitely buy one, Oscar. You should definitely buy one.
I looked into it as far as the the value for your dollar,
no.
but the prices have come down from $8K to $5K.
Yeah.
They say that around Christmas time we'll get one that's about $3,500.
I mean, if you want 4K stuff, Netflix is streaming some shows in 4K.
Yeah. House of
YouTube
Cards
always
is
has
4K,
stuff. Sony and Samsung will sell you a 4K box with a bunch of movies like preloaded, and then you can like rent and download on them.
That's kind of
but
cool.
you're not really going to be able to tell the difference.
I'm sorry, Ackerman. I apologize.
Okay, the guys at Vizio, they make good cheap TVs. They got a cheap 4K coming out that should be pretty good.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, as far as brands are concerned, growing up, my family was like a Sony family, right? You had to have a Trinitron. They would spend the dollars. They said it's all about quality. I think the playing field has been leveled as far as your Samsungs, your Sonys, and Vizio still does, while it's a cheaper brand, it makes a great product.
They make a couple of really great products. They have one line called the E-Series, regular 1080p, regular HD TVs. Best bang for your buck, without a doubt. If you're going to buy a 50 or 65-inch TV, just get the Vizio E-Series, unless you're going to spend like $6,000 on a TV.
Okay.
Then just get that. The big thing that happened is everybody stopped making plasmas. And I hate to say it, the plasmas still look better.
Yeah.
I used to say everybody at CNET has a plasma, and there's a reason for that.
Chad, you have
I got
a
a big
beautiful
one. I bought a 70-inch plasma.
See, Panasonic used to make the best TVs. They were all plasmas, and they got out of the business.
That's what I have.
Because it's more expensive to make that, and it's a lot cheaper to make the LCDs.
I love it, man. It
we're in an
works great.
LCD world now, unfortunately.
Wow.
So you're saying, though, in a year, I'm sorry, I completely just railroaded what you guys are talking about.
Okay,
in 1 year, I'm going to love my Xbox One.
Oh, I certainly don't say that. I think the game.
What are you saying? For God's sake.
I think there's a bit of kind of creative bankruptcy creeping in with a lot of the game companies. Everyone's stuck in what I call the annual upgrade cycle, and that includes Apple and Samsung with hardware, and companies like EA and Activision, where every year for shareholders they got to put out another version of the same thing. So how much progress can you make in 1
Sounds
year?
like Madden.
How much better is Madden this year than last year? We've been saying that for 20
I'll tell
years.
Who's the leader in the clubhouse, PS4 or Xbox One?
PS4.
I see a lot more action going on around PS4 for gaming stuff. If you're interested in sort of the high-tech home of the future stuff, Xbox One does some really interesting stuff. They have cable. You put your cable TV signal through it and control it through that. I think that's super high-tech. That's super awesome. But for pure gaming, it's like Destiny. You wouldn't even know it's out on Xbox One. Everybody's playing it on PlayStation 4.
Wow, that's wonderful. Because I'm about to go buy it for Xbox One tomorrow. Ackerman, what's your Twitter?
I'm just at Dan Ackerman on Twitter.
There he is.
Give him a follow.
Tremendous gentleman has been coming on our show, and again, as Drab would put it, when we were nubs and in a much smaller market. And wonderful to see you live in person.
Thank you. Can I just say thank you so much, guys, for having me on your first show here. And in the old days, when I used to call into your terrestrial radio show, I guarantee you, every single time I was in a bar and I said, I got to go outside to the street, guys, and call these dudes. And I swear to you, every single time I just went outside on the street here in Manhattan and called you when I was at a bar.
Alcoholism works well with this show, so
Absolutely.
that works perfect. At Dan Ackerman, and of course, read him on cnet.com. Thank you, Dan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, we're coming back with the Yam Bag. If you have any comments, questions, or queries, please email us, yambag@bigoanddukes.com.
Big O and Duke Show. Thank you for joining us.
You know this is doing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's Pie Tasters.
Yeah.
Just check out the Pie Tasters on iTunes if you haven't.
You should.
I believe Eastside Dave is a besties with our buddy Steve Jackson for lead singer of the Pie Tasters.
I did hear that. Again, thank you. If you want to hear more of Big O and Dukes,
we hope you do.
Hopefully you'll hear here on Sirius 206 or XM 103.
We don't want that.
Or you can always go to bigoanddukes.com as we have a catalog of programming there. Special thank you to EB.
Eric Pickle
of the Junkies in the Morning, who I just saw is listening live in Washington, D.C.
Wonderful morning show in Washington, D.C. If we're going to thank people in Washington, D.C., Oscar, I got to thank Chris Kynard, my program director, a friend of ours, and Chris Olivero right here in New York City. Thank you very much for letting me personally do this, boys. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Big thank you.
Lots to get to still, and not a lot of time to get to it. So, Drab, but you're going to have to do your first producing of the evening. Oh, wait, what do you give me? Thumbs up to E-Rock? That's your producing?
No, Eric said it's broken.
It's broken? Is it all
I passed the duties off to E-Rock, and he's saying it's broken.
Yeah.
Our production's broken?
The LED just fucked up.
Well, that's the first speed bump.
You know what? I've heard
people like the music, E-Rock.
I've heard this. Oh, wow. You're throwing daggers.
Wow.
You know, I've heard this so many times actually listening to the channel. It's kind of fun that it's happening here while we're here. Nagel, should we move on? Or, I mean, we can just move on. It's fine. What's the prognosis
I'd
here?
move on. Let me try to see if I can reload it.
Do me a favor. If you can reload it, just play it right in the middle of whatever I'm saying.
Please.
It's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that.
Yam Bag time.
Yeah, the Big On Dukes Yam Bag is something where you can always contact us with a question or a query or anything you once read on the show. It is yambag@bigoanddukes.com. So we'll get to it, and then if we get the sounder and we get the music, then, bully.
Yeah, why not?
Bully for us. Bode. With recent news that Marvel's Daredevil show on Netflix will now have a grittier tone than that pile of crap Ben Affleck movie, do you feel episodic television is a viable medium for comic book adaptations? Couldn't get into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I have mixed feelings about Gotham, blah, blah, blah. Should Marvel and DC stick to big budget movies? Long live the Horde. Brandon in Modesto. Call away from California.
Great question. I think
is a good question.
The cost of episodic television is so high that if it takes this comic book kind of not a swing, I don't even know what to call it. If it takes comic books to bring that back and people to spend money to actually try it, I'll take that all day.
Well, it's got to be cheaper than doing a $500 million movie or whatever. Well, that's not the budget. $150 million, $200 million film.
But what I'm comparing it to is that so much TV now is reality television that they're not spending the dollars on episodic television.
It's more than if you were going to film, The Amazing Race 14.
Yeah.
But it's still cheaper than doing one of these movies. I didn't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'm trying to think of the last superhero show, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys. I don't know.
As a kid, The Flash was around on NBC for a second. I remember that.
I'm not an Arrow guy, so I don't watch Arrow. I don't know if it's any good. I will check out The Flash. I'll have a peep at that. Daredevil, I'm definitely going to watch. I have long, for forever and a day, Oscar, I think they should do a Showtime, HBO, whatever it is, premium cable version of The Punisher. I think that'd
be fair.
Perfect. You take it street
Great
level.
character to do it with.
Crime, drama, that's what you do. Yeah, I mean, these things seem to be successful. People seem to want to watch them on television. Financially, I think it's probably good for the industry. I don't know if creatively that's the best way to kind of put these superheroes.
If it does work, though, I guess, do you agree with me that you would see those dollars going to something like this and actually trying it instead of another reality show, hack reality show?
I don't know, because they're so cheap. I mean, you're never going to see the Learning Channel and the History Channel, all these places that have all these reality shows, Discovery, do superhero shows.
True.
No, that's not the case.
Very
but
true.
I would rather, because there's so many explosions and flying and you need special effects, I'd rather see it be a film. What's up, Big O and Dukes? I'm holding my annual pig roast in about a month, and I wanted to see if Dukes had any recommendations for a half or quarter keg. Keep in mind, it's still pretty warm in Phoenix in October, so I prefer nothing too heavy. Thanks. Long live the horde. Andrew in Scottsdale, where we both like to live, if we could, Oscar.
He's got a ton of
You
options.
can answer this, too.
Yeah, look, Fort Peaks has always been a friend and been a
if you're going local, sure.
fond memories as far as what you want to get as far as kegs are concerned, or half a keg. But
Four Peaks Peach. If if it's hot, that's definitely very refreshing.
yeah, it's
light,
still warm there right now.
fruity.
I'd go that. I would do that.
Of course, if you can get it, the Shiner Ruby Redbird, delicious summer beer. As far as kegs go, though, you want to be very, very careful if you're going to go microbrew. The one that I would recommend would be Founder's All Day IPA. You can drink a lot of it. It's you want to get a session IPA is what you want, because it'll give you that craft beer flavor, little hoppy notes to it, but it won't overwhelm you.
It'll let you enjoy it all day long.
Yeah, you get a 9%, 8% beer, you take it out there, everybody's going to be fighting each other by the end of the night.
Like tequila.
Yeah, exactly. And you can get us, if you can find somebody in Virginia, of course, you can get a keg of The Maneuver from Mad Fox Brewing.
Worth the effort.
The Big O and Dukes beer.
Worth the effort.
Of choice. Question, guys. Chad, hey, Drab.
Hey, some producing.
Hey, Drab, what song is this that's playing right
this is African Beat. Is the name of the song. Artist unknown.
Not very African, this song. I've always noticed
People seem
that.
to like it.
They do like it. We're doing the mailbag right now on Big O and Dukes. Question, Chad, Oscar, and Drab, the fact that you guys share personal experiences and adventures is what makes your show so great. Is there anything that you shared on air that you absolutely wish you hadn't, Sebastian?
I remember a time when we were in Baltimore then this was a bigger headache off the air than on there, when Sidney Ponson, I met him at a bar.
Sidney Ponson, the pitcher.
Yeah, Baltimore Orioles at the time.
He's got a built like me.
And he mother effed me, and then I went on air. I said, "Hey, I met Sidney Ponson
in a bar."
Yeah, in a bar.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I do.
And because we were younger broadcasters, I didn't put too much. I just said, "This is what happened to me on Friday night," right?
So how did he get back to you?
It got back to me because I was getting death threats as a young broadcaster
from Orioles fans.
And I was like, I don't even look. The guy was just a dick.
What about when Matt Hardy banged your girlfriend?
That was tough too. Yeah, that's probably a time I like not talk about.
Pretty personal.
Right off the top rope. Yeah. That was tough. That was roughly 4 years ago now.
Oscar had an ex-girlfriend that handed it out to Matt Hardy, and apparently that is not a joke.
No, that's not a joke. He did me a favor, Chad.
Who did?
Matt Hardy.
Oh, you sure did? You're in a better place now.
Better place.
God bless Matt Hardy.
Better place.
Let's hear you say it.
Thank you, sir. Won't say that, but thank you.
Drabby?
Yeah, there was a time about 9 months ago after I returned from Seattle from my Christmas vacation.
Oh, no.
That I slipped up a little bit, and I told the listening audience that my sister ruined Christmas by announcing that she was pregnant at age 40 with her 55-year-old husband. And
remember how she did it? Tell everybody how she did it.
My sister had to have the final gift of the Christmas season for my parents, and my parents unwrapped it, and it was a ultrasound of the baby that nobody knew about.
How many kids does she have?
She has 7 kids herself right now, and this would be the 8th, I think.
It's the Duggars.
And then my sister-in-law wouldn't let anybody hold the baby either because it was sick, and she didn't want anybody to get the baby sick. So I came back on the air and I smashed my family and told them they
killed them.
Said they ruined Christmas.
Well, they did.
And then my mom called me sobbing and said I threw my family under the bus for our radio show.
Okay, hold on a second. 2 things. 1, it's not a radio show anymore. We were fired. It was a podcast.
Yeah, podcast.
We're
2,
online, baby.
You were right. They're wrong. Just so you know that.
I believe the quote was, "What is the family a big joke to you?"
Yeah. Well, you know what? When you're 40 and having more kids, it is.
Yeah.
How about you tie them tubes, honey?
That was rough for you. I remember that.
I'm sure it was rough for him.
What about you, Bradley?
Oh, when I had my tits done live on the air. Yeah, I regret that. That comes up a lot, and people tend to like to mock me for it.
That way, you have to expound on that.
I got the gynecomastia.
Yes.
I got it. I had man boobs. We had a goddamn sponsor that was a plastic surgeon. This was before Oscar was having all his plastic surgery. And they said, does anybody on the show want plastic surgery? Because we have this sponsor.
Yeah.
And I said, I've been walking around with these tits for the last 10 years. I'd like someone to suck them out of my chest. And now I got to look at my wife after knowing that that's something that's gone out over the airwaves, and people make fun of me for it.
What's the clinical term?
Gynecomastia.
Okay, just want to confirm.
And the guy asked me, do you want me to take the glands out that grow the tits back? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And then he didn't because they grew back.
Look what happened.
Yeah, look what happened. Had to go under the knife, still got tits. What a nightmare. So we all have things we regret.
Oh, yeah.
We all have stories, Oscar.
Yes.
Oh, boy. Yam bag on Big On Dukes. Guys, this goes out to the big three. In case you're just tuning in, you're not familiar. We're the big three. There's Oscar and Chad. It's Drab. What story has creeped you out most about the other big three member? Examples, shower sitting, Oscar's mom rubbing him down, Chad trying to pick up that young high school girl on a cold morning. These are all true things. Love the show. Matt in the great city of Richmond, Virginia, the capital of Virginia itself.
Nothing's... Look, we were almost like brothers here.
I got one.
You got one?
You touching the kid.
Well, I didn't touch the kid.
You did.
To be fair, I had a nephew that I was taking care of, and he had to go number one.
How old was he?
I want to say he might have been 5 or 6 at the time.
Right.
The bowl was too high for him to stand. We didn't have that little step stool.
What type of bowl, Oscar? Cereal bowl?
The toilet bowl.
Oh.
And he had to go, and I remember they can't point at that age, so it just would go everywhere.
Sure.
And he was learning how to go.
And you were taking control of that situation.
No, and so I wrapped my hand in a paper towel because I didn't want to touch it, but I knew I had to push it down towards the bowl.
Yeah, $2 to touch it while you touch your toes. You push the penis down.
I had to push it down, but I remember I had this I had a problem. I said I can't touch it, but so I'll just wrap my fingers in paper towel and push it down so he can go in the bowl. And then I told you guys about it, and you just murdered me. You murdered me ever
deservedly
since.
So, Adrian
Peterson.
I don't know why
it's so... I hate him, and I didn't touch him.
Yes,
what about the time Oscar installed a drop cam in our podcast studio?
Holy crap!
And spied on me for weeks before telling me that he was able to watch from home because anytime somebody walked into the room, it activated.
Man Great Studios in Manassas, Virginia. That's where we do our podcast, The Big O and Duke Show on BigOandDukes.com. Without telling anyone, Oscar put a camera in there because he thought Drab was whacking off.
And he wanted to watch from his living room.
And how did you find out about that camera, Drab?
3 weeks later, he pulled me aside and goes,
No. You got a text, remember?
Oh, that's right. Said, Drab, I've been watching you.
To be fair,
I can see you.
I put that camera in the bunker for security reasons.
No, yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Make sure that you could securely watch Drab pleasure himself.
No. There was no whacking of bags.
Disgusting. First time, long time, guys.
You realize you both just mentioned things about me.
Yeah, well, it was a coincidence. Drab, we definitely didn't have a meeting before the show to read these Yam questions. Guys, first time, long time, do you consider the Fukerton cheating? Thanks, I'll hang up and listen. Sean in Maryland.
UrbanDictionary.com.
Check out what Fukerton is. It's something that a lot of guys enjoy doing, and I think a lot of guys don't want anything to do with. It's, look it up. I don't consider it cheating, no. What about you?
I'd say yes. Yeah, it's definitely cheating.
What if your chick doesn't like it?
It's definitely cheating. If you take as you would say, the swanton bomb,
yeah, right into that thing. What if okay, hold on.
Definitely cheating.
If your chick knew that you were into the Fukerton,
yes,
and knew that you had a chance to Fukerton Iggy Azalea or Nicki Minaj or any of these big-ass women that are traipsing around acting like it's always been in style, you think she'd leave you for it?
I think she would.
Oh.
That's just my thought.
I got some hard questions to put to my chick when I get home. Hard questions.
Let me know when Iggy Azalea spreads those cheeks for you, Chad.
All right. Well, first of all, you're being disgusting. Second of all,
how dare you?
Look, we're talking about hypotheticals here, right?
Okay.
We're all just spitballing.
What about you, T-shirt?
I would guess my girlfriend would not approve.
Well, she would pretend to be Iggy before that happened.
Yeah.
She also...
We do a lot of weird sex games.
You do. She's probably been a straitjacket by that point. Well, I mean, there's so many people to thank. Oscar.
Absolutely.
Opie from the Opie and Jim Norton show.
Opie Radio.
Absolutely. Everybody here. Don Wickland, Troy Kwan, E-Rock. Roland, who has been a pleasure to talk to this evening.
Giving us some great programming tips during the breaks.
Hard Rock Johnny, who is a celebrity. I've heard about him 1,000 times. Brought us food up here. Black Earl dropped us off food from the Hard Rock Cafe.
Nice.
Very cool. Everyone that's listening at all the listening parties across the country in Phoenix and in Washington, D.C. And anyone that's checked out the show tonight, we greatly appreciate it. If you would like to hear more of this brand of ill repute, BigOandDukes.com, at Big O and Dukes on Twitter and Instagram, and then, of course, Facebook.com/Big O and Dukes. And look, it can't hurt us if you tweet the guys that were responsible for this at Opie Radio, at SiriusXM. Let them know you like the show, you'd like to hear it more often. It couldn't hurt.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Been a wonderful time up here in New York, and now we have to Uber to the train or get left with the crackheads for until 3:30, I believe, was when the next train is available.
Let's get on it.
All right, Drabby, thank you, bud.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
What's your intern's name, E-Rock? To screen the call, for God's sake. Nicole? Thank you to Nicole.
Thank you, Nicole.
All right, everybody. We will see you on Tuesday on BigODukes.com.